What's up, guys? Just sitting here down at the beach, just totally seeing some nice little waves come through, right here. There's a little right just here. See it? Just starting like there, breaking across here. See this one behind it? It's a bit full. But something. Man, I even had a fucking surfboard for 2 years sitting at Veronica's house. And when I couldn't get the camera, I couldn't get the surfboard either. So I could have been up here at a decent cheap hostel the whole time. But I couldn't see it on the internet. You know what I mean? This hostel, and everything looked like priced more. It's 600 pesos a night normally, now on the weekdays, but everything online on Google Maps was like 1,000 peso and over. Even this one called Trip Hostel, which is really 400, said 800 online. So it's like fucking again the AI online gang stalking me. Because this is Punta del Este here, this is like up north more. I could have been here the whole time, but Oro, I guess with Oro I couldn't have been here really, I guess. Man, it's such a weird trip here, you know what I mean? Like, it's been so strange. Like, just to get back to normalcy in Australia is gonna feel like a different, like, Matrix or a different world or something. I swear to you, man, like, it just continually, even now that I'm up here, it still feels a little weird. My last night here tonight, I think I'm gonna get laid. Isn't that interesting? Man, this chick walks into the room last night and I'm just like, what? Because like in Uruguay, when I lived in the city, everything's segregated because there's a lot of people like immigrants from Colombia and blah blah blah, Venezuela, and people that rape people. So they've always had it very segregated in the city here in Uruguay. But in this hostel, this chick just walks into where I'm staying. I'm just like, what? I didn't think that was allowed, and so I just start talking. Yeah, MGTOW allows you to fuck, but don't get attached, don't get dragged down emotionally, right? Let's get into MGTOW. May as well make this a MGTOW video because, you know, she has a soul. I walk out this morning, she's fucking meditating on the side of the pool. I'm like, what? And then I go in for the kill and I'm, hey, do you want to come to my bunk bed tonight? And she just laughed and said, yeah, I'll be back at 7. I went, that's my kind of fucking woman. Doesn't fuck around, doesn't shit around and play games. So I was like, oh, you got a soul. The granny stalkers out here, man. Just went and sat down and looked at me now hovering. You always got to have an ear. Anyway, men going their own way. Fuck women. I just wanted to see her reaction. I don't think she even understood the English. Yeah, anyway, let's talk about that. Because, you know, the women that want to play games, man, that's soulless. Like, you've got a man there who wants to connect with you. Even if it's like, oh, you see it as shallow, oh, he just wants to put his dick in my vagina, you know what I mean? Well, you got to realize that at the least, there's a connection. Because no, I don't want to do it with any of these girls right here, for instance. Know what I'm saying? So there's got to be a connection to begin with. See what I mean? So, and I understand girls get lots of offers and all that, but that's got nothing to do with it, man. Like, you playing is you playing, and that's it. There are no excuses. You know, a player character knows all about this, right? I know, I'm a player. I have to play almost everyone in my life. Otherwise, I'd be destitute, homeless, and starving for the rest of my fucking life. And I've proved that being over here in Uruguay. If none of you guys donated, it would have been like that. Anyway, so I already know it's like that. That is gang stalking. Destitution is the main aim because it's decreasing your energy. Anyway, let's get back to MGTOW or MG tow because we're towing them. And what do I mean by telling them? I always say that. Well, in relationships, I realized, and not just me, but generally, men come with like deep spiritual epiphanies, which are like divine directions and like big time. And I've noticed that women like can't handle this, especially in my relationships. It's like they can't fucking handle like the spiritual direction that you're going for instance, and then maintain it as well. You have to understand the difference in energies. A guy can vector really, really well, all the way out of this matrix very easily. It seems to be a lot more difficult for a woman to even vector. Any businesswoman I see who vectors and is doing like, you know, a good single woman life and mature, and she's not like a piece of shit game player, and she's serious and she's focused, they all have masculine anima activated, or animus activated. So the woman's higher self is masculine, remember? And for me, my higher self is feminine. And it's not about just becoming transgender. And I was going to make a video called Spiritual Transgenderism recently. We're going to have to get into that, because there's a lot of, you know, like Left Side of the Brain, he'll talk about like his early channel would talk about, a couple of years ago, he would talk about how there's a lot of bitch men which are really women just because they've got the appendage between their legs doesn't mean they're a man, and all that. And I absolutely agree. And what I realized was, he never said this word, but I realized, it's spiritual transgenderism. Not just transgender, which like even he would go on about on his channel, but spiritual. It's like some people, and it's not that, you know, the lower transgender people, they're not in touch with the higher self to the point of just have become entirely their higher self. Because that's what people are going to comment. Oh, so all of us transgenders, we've become like, you know, our higher self then, the higher feminine animus. And no, that's not the case at all, man. You know, what they're doing is exploring ego. I like the way David Icke put it. You know, like here in the trap in this world, they want you to identify as whatever your stereotypical identity is, the grid. I always talk about that, 6-dimensional grids, what archetype you're being. Like, I'm a surfer. You know, a skater has a different personality, demeanor, etc. It's a different grid. I just use those two simple ones. Then you can, you know, think about the fisherman, the businessman, so on. Hold on. I better not be running out of space. Oh, for fuck's sake, man. All the time. Forever running out of space. So there is a spirit, because I was going to go for a big talk here, and now I'm running out of fucking space. So yeah, spiritual transgenderism is different to lower, you know, ego transgenderism, because you know how David Icke was saying, oh, they want you to identify. Yeah, I agree. And then he said, and so transgenderism, the LGBTQ is identifying with like a single, it's even more, I can't use two hands, it's even more pointed in to, you know, the tiniest part of what you can be and label yourself. You know, if your infinite consciousness is way out here, they're right in there. And spiritual transgenderism is just people walking around here and they appear to have like a female body or a male body, but really their spirit is different. Now that could be indeed leading to some transgenderism, and there's so much confusion. And then, you know, in a few years people will pop out of that identity. Yes, that's true. I'm very open-minded. I understand it all. But an Age of Aquarius, divine feminine energy, I get it all. I've talked about some of this before. There's lots more videos I have to make on this. I'll make an actual video on transgenderism on my other channel, because I don't want to get this channel just shut down because, like, you know, I'm making that video where they can probably report it. Bluro. Yeah, so someone's heading out. We've got two bros heading out for a little wave out here. He's got the typical long hair of the surfy kind. Madness. We're gonna see some surfing. Go, bro. He's off. Yes, there's a little right coming in through here. So MGTOW, in the sense of, you know, spiritual transgenderism, you want to be getting away from even the guys which have a feminine, like too feminine nature. fuck, who's that dude in the spiritual movement? He talks about like divine masculine when nobody else does, or he talks against the divine feminine. Someone very famous in the spiritual movement. You'll all know his name, I'm certain. He has like a bigger YouTube channel than me. I've just forgotten his name right now. He's actually very well known for other things as well. But he stood up for, like, you know, the male sort of perspective within 2013 and stuff, when everyone was hardcore into, you know, oh, it's Return of the Divine Feminine, Age of Aquarius and all this. Too bad I forgot his name. I'm really sorry. One day I'll put it as a comment under this. Yeah, no, I've forgotten his name. Anyway, so like the point is, you know, you want to avoid the guys which are, I'm not just talking about like transgender, and this is going to come off as like hate, but we can avoid whatever we want. You're allowed to boycott whatever you want. I'm not hating, I'm just saying I want to boycott a certain thing, and if you want to listen to my perspective, you can listen to this video, right, and understand what I'm saying. So it's like even the guys which are like, you know, really feminine, some people call them bitch men, and you know, these women use those guys like an army against you. These cucks, they're all cucks. C-U-C-K means like servile. That they're easily controlled, and which means they're operating easily under fear, which shuts down reception of higher light. You know what I mean? It's things like this that I know that make this more than some sort of hate speech or something, because I actually know what I'm talking about. It's just hard to get it out in English sometimes. So yeah, that's for sure going on, you know, spiritual transgenderism, and you might have guy friends which are bitch men, and you got to dump them, man. You got to dump them, because they always end up getting emotional about something. And if they can't just, you know, like, stop getting trapped in some dual nature of thought, you know, some third dimensional thought, and tying to it and identifying to it, they're only going to cause you trouble, because you're higher than that. You see from, you know, the fifth dimensional non-dual perspective and so on, and all these other dimensional perspectives like I talk about, like spiritual transgenderism, that's beyond third dimension, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that's not talking about LGBTQ binary massive list of freaking acronym bloody points of you know what they are. It's crazy how big that list has gotten. That's not just what I'm talking about. Those people for sure, like, you know, for sure I'm not hanging around them. Do I respect them? It depends who it is, but it just seems all too often no. It just always ends up in like it's so hard to. I mean, some of them even, you know, hold to decent logic and stuff, but then I always find there's like this crazy emotional attachment to some fucking belief of some movement, you know, and like standing up for someone else and stuff. Like, man, if someone has a spirit, they'll stand up for themselves. That's why I stopped like standing up for stuff. Like, I really, you know, I still want to speak for animals, because they can't speak in human words, and some of them have a soul and high spirit and stuff. But as so far as for people, fuck that, man. If they don't have their own spirit and they can't stand up for themselves and speak for themselves, you know what I mean, dump them. So there's a lot of dumping that you have to do when you know, going through ascension, and it's no joke. Even the monks in Tibet will have to agree with this, because they're doing it. They left their whole fucking town and their family. You know what I mean? So they can't talk. Like, if they're really, if their worth is, you know, worth anything, they must agree. There's a whole lot of dumping you do as you ascend, so to speak. And for, you know, a transgender person, they would be dumping like the male who is, you know, really too masculine, right, who is over masculine. And that's not the point I'm making here. I'm not being chauvinist or anything, pig-headed. I'm seeing energies, and I'm seeing problems and solving it by boycotting. Like I said, like I can't be friends with these cucks, man. cucks always cause a problem. They always have an issue with something I'm doing because they're so heavily in frequency control. They care what other people think. And it's like that's all they're doing. And that's horizontal. That's the hive. That's the hive mind. That's what I keep trying to tell people. The hive is quite visible and easy to recognize. I'll tell you what, they're pretty shitty surfers here in Uruguay. He couldn't even do a re-entry. Anyway, man, if I went out there, I'd be ripping #1 in the whole fucking Uruguay, I bet ya. Don't forget I was a surf instructor, so I'm not just, like being up myself. That's another point. Be up yourself. Who else's chakra system are you going to be up? I said that in a video a long time ago. I'll say that again, man. Be up yourself. Man, be stuck up. Because who else are you going to be up? Because otherwise you're horizontal and you're giving a shit about some other being. You know what I mean? You've got to be stuck up and you've got to protect your energy. It's an energy extraction matrix. It's the whole name of the game. That's why I don't understand how this is so rough on people's consciousness. I know I speak rough. I get it. I know who I am. But, this should be shit that you understand at school. And there's adults out here. It's just like people who haven't taken magic mushrooms until they're fucking 40 years old. You know that Vanish Mushroom song? I love that song. Because it goes, he was 40 years old before he took the magic mushroom. I'm like, yeah, that's a good line in the song. Because, man, if you're waiting, hold on, am I still recording? Yeah. If you're waiting, till you're 40 to discover yourself and go inside yourself on psychedelics, I mean, it's a different thing to say you couldn't get them, but, if you can go find them in a field. Anyway, my shit is running out here, my storage. Sorry, guys.